Attention is the biggest commodity that's out there when it comes to PR, right? So they use these headlines that draw your attention, and you read the headline and you think you know what the article is about, but you really have no idea.
As leaders or readers, you have to read those articles so that you can refer back and really dispel a lot of these lies that people are putting out there.
Anything in the media with a headline is like stepping into a shower that has two temperatures, full hot or full cold.
Hello, RWorld. Welcome back to not just another episode, but another season of RWorld Talk. We are in season 4. Excited to share something with you guys is that we are flipping the format this year. And instead of me just interviewing guests on the program, we are actually going to have some co-hosts for season 4. I've got with me our president, Mr. Jonathan Dolphus, as well as our immediate past president, Mr. Jonathan Lickstein. So Jonathan squared and Chris here. We are now going to take season 4 in a new direction and have candid conversations about what is really happening in the association world, in the market, in real estate in general. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
I feel discriminated against being only Jonathans can sit on this side of the table. Stay in your place.
Exactly, right?
Better.
Well, I got to have this side of my face showing on camera.
It's the good side.
No, it is a good side. So, fellas, let's get this thing started. The episode that we have today, we're going to talk about fear sells, basically the crisis framing problem. So, our headlines informing us, or our headlines manipulating us. I got to get my tongue untied this year. Our headlines informing us or manipulating us. There's a lot of stuff that we see, obviously, on social media every day in the news. A lot of headlines are obviously trying to reel us in. We've talked about this before when, you look at an Inman headline and it sounds like the world is falling, the sky is falling. But then when you actually read through the article and make it to the end, it's like, oh, that's actually not the story that I thought I was about to read. So let's talk about a few things. Words like collapse, crisis, crash, shocking, obviously driving clicks, but they're distorting the reality of what's happening in the market and in the association world. So why do we think that media really leans into that dramatic framing?
Attention is the biggest commodity that's out there when it comes to PR, right? With any news publication. They're all trying to get you to click and read their publication, get higher read rates, etc. So they use these headlines that draw your attention. And the biggest issue that I see is that not only the American public, but we in our profession, we don't read. You read the headline and you think you know what the article is about, but you really have no idea. As you mentioned, you get to the bottom of the article and it really took you very far down a different pathway than what the headline did. So it's really important to read and understand the impact, not only for yourself, but how it's affecting your consumers. And the most important piece of this is when you read this, your customers really aren't. Your clients are reading the headlines and they're moving on because life is busy.
Yep.
And your attention spans are smaller and smaller now than they were before. So people are reading the headlines, maybe the subheader, and then moving on like they know everything. So taking that mindset of what a consumer or another agent in your office might be reading and assuming, you need to be that source of information and really digest that. Just had that come up today. Somebody posted about the property tax discussion happening in Florida, suggesting everybody should reach out to your customers. Property taxes are going away and here's how it's going. I said, hey, pump your brakes.
Yeah.
How much do you really know about this? How much do you know of where it's going and where the ripple effect is going to happen? Stop, because then you're just perpetuating that negative headline and continuing that on. You need to understand it more than anything else.
How many times do you guys find that you're like constantly correcting people? Even like just agents in your own office, and not even just the consumer. But it's like, I feel like I'm always telling people, well, did you actually read the damn article? Because that's not what it was about, and that's not what it said, and that's not what's happening right now.
Right. So like I always refer to it. My mentor always says leaders are readers. And most times people refer to the headlines and subheaders and not really reading the article, like Jonathan said. But you have to read those articles so that you can refer back and say, yeah, I read the same article. Did you get into the nuts and bolts and pieces of the actual article and really dispel a lot of these lies that people are putting out there into the atmosphere? There's so much that is, one, different most articles are a national perspective
Yeah.
versus a hyper-local perspective in the state of Florida, which is, as we know, totally different from everyone else.
Not even just the state of Florida, but South Florida in general is completely
South Florida in general, too. Yep, 100%.
The number of consumers that kind of reach out and say, hey, when is the market going to tank? I heard there's a bubble that's bursting.
Yeah.
When's the market going to tank? When you talk about our hyper local area, when? That's not going to happen. You know?
I just had a buyer reach out to me from a buyer that I'd worked with in the past, and they're like, "Hey, I just read that all these there's this big foreclosure crisis." Crisis again, where'd you get that word from? Somebody on TikTok spewing something that's completely not true. But they wanted to talk about this foreclosure crisis, and can you only send me the foreclosures? I'm like, yeah, there's 3. They're not even in the MLS, but there's 3. It's not something that we're experiencing here. So I don't know where these foreclosures are happening across the country, or if they're even happening right now. I mean, people are locked into pretty low interest rates. I don't know where all these foreclosures are coming from.
Well, there are foreclosures happening, but they're outside of our marketplace.
Right.
I mean, our market is held really, really strong. And I mean, we'll talk about analytics and where opportunities are in a different conversation, but the outlook is good for us down here.
Right.
And other areas outside of the major metropolitan areas, they're feeling that a little bit more. So more of the outliers, the rural areas, maybe not big cities, the outside that area, they are being affected, and you are seeing foreclosures happen mostly outside of Florida, but perhaps remote areas outside of Jacksonville or in the center of the state on the north side. More in those types of areas than Naples, Tampa, Palm Beach, Broward, Miami. We're not seeing that here because our market is so strong.
But what about those headlines I've been seeing them lately where it's the worst since? Okay, well, what number are you using that it's the worst since when? The worst since COVID, when we had sales numbers that were the best that anybody's ever seen. It's oh yeah, this is the worst since 2021. Oh, okay, well, 2021 was a pretty good year. So if we've gone down just a little bit, yeah, it'd probably be the worst since 2021.
Anything in the media with a headline is like stepping into a shower that has 2 temperatures, full hot or full cold. There is no in between.
There's no in between. It's so funny, doing a lot of these market stats with news publications and such like that. And the reporter not really understanding the market. They read an article here, an article there. And I'm like, listen, these are the actual stats, right? This is what it looks like year over year. If you're comparing it to, like you said, pre-COVID or right after COVID, it's not the same. You have to bring perspective into any conversation that you have around real estate.
So let's stick with that, because I remember in my year, you're going to probably have nightmares as well as I do about when the reporters are calling and they're like, hey, this is what we're hearing. And they're trying to pull these sound bites out of you in order to put whatever comes out of your mouth in line with the story that they're trying to run with in order to get those clicks like we're talking about. What have you experienced this year? I know we're only in end of February, but in the first 2 months, I'm sure you've gotten some calls from the media. Is there a certain story that they're trying to run with or pull or that you've had to correct them with the proper data and say absolutely not, you guys are running in the wrong direction with that?
I think the general consensus is, is real estate slow? Are deals still happening? Is it good for the buyer to still purchase a home? And the answer is yes. I mean, I would say it's probably a little bit better of a market right now.
Right.
Interest rates have kind of stayed a little bit lower. We're never going to see those interest rates in the 3s and the 2s again. That was let's get past that market.
Right.
We're in a stabilized market. Inventory's at a decent level now. And so it is a good time for people to buy. It's still a good time for people to sell. Sellers are still making huge profits. We're seeing that across the board still happening, right? It might not be as big as when it was in 2021, but again, anomaly, coming out of a global pandemic. So that's really the biggest thing. And one recently that I just had was about the number of cash sales and where are those sales coming from.
It's a lot of cash.
Yeah, there's a lot of cash. I mean, we're still probably number 1 or number 2 as far as states as people moving in to Florida and really it being their first and primary home versus a second and third home. You're seeing that change. And so there's a lot of money coming in. Florida has a very favorable business environment. And so a lot of people you see, Wells Fargo moves their wealth management down here in South Florida. You're seeing a lot of bigger businesses coming down this way.
Yeah, you got big tech down in Broward and big finance up here in Palm Beach.
And even Wall Street.
It was a big company from Canada that shut down and moved down to Florida as well this year. By the end of 2026, they'll be down here. It's another wealth management company.
Excellent.
So you're really trying to, people are thinking, oh, well, it's so expensive to live down here in Florida. Yeah, well, again, real estate is local. Depends. Where are you looking?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Are you hiring the right people to show you around and show you, okay, what's affordable, what might be a little bit too high for you and your budget range? And there's still plenty of opportunity to be down here in South Florida.
What's so funny is we've seen the switch flip, right? I talked about full hot, full cold.
Yeah.
It was crisis, rates are high, unaffordable to buy a home, et cetera, et cetera. And now that's switching gears because interest rates are dropping.
Yeah, now they're all talking rates are under 6.
Right. Best rates we've had in years since COVID, et cetera, and over 5 years. And it's changing the narrative in a positive way. But every headline, every change in the marketplace creates an opportunity. If you just read the headline, you will miss that opportunity. You have leaders are readers, as my friend Jonathan on the Jonathan side of the table has said.
I like that one. I like that one. I haven't heard that before, but I like it. You're always dropping nuggets like that all the time. Now we got Dolphus in here dropping some nuggies to our listeners. Right now I've found that it's like we're in this little sweet spot, and I think if you're a buyer, now is absolutely the time to strike, because I feel like the inventory has gone up to a point where buyers now have choice. Like I think we're on 6 months of just over 6 months of inventory, maybe. So it's kind of like it's feeling like this is the time that if you're a buyer, you've got a great opportunity to do a little bit of wheeling and dealing because properties have been on the market. Days on market are up a little bit. And I think that if these interest rates come down a little bit more, they're going to end up with a heck of a lot more competition than they're going to have today.
Yeah. I would say months of inventory has gone up slightly. So, yes, there's more opportunity for buyers to wheel and deal, like you said. But again, to your point, if the interest rates dropped a little bit, I mean, it doesn't even need to be a full point. You just say a half a point or a quarter of a point. It's going to make a difference for a lot of people.
Those buyers are going to come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, they're going to come out of the woodwork. And so the days on market for sure have gone up. But again, it's an opportunity for buyers to come into the market and say, hey, I'm going to pick up this property now while I can, while I'm not competing against multiple offers.
And so the sky's not falling is what it sounds like.
No, I think the sky is rising right now. So it's always a conversation of supply and demand, right? And the sentiment to the consumer has been crisis, not affordable, et cetera. Don't buy a house right now. And that kept people on the sidelines. I think the stat is nationally, there's over 5 million transactions that would have occurred in a normal marketplace, right? But my experience last year with every reporter, the one question they had, no matter what, they were looking for an answer. Are we in a buyer's market? Are we in a full-fledged buyer's market? Because inventory is so high. And
I don't think we're there yet.
We're not there yet, but we're past that balance market. We're teetering towards the buyer's market. And every time a headline comes out, you can leverage this with the American consumer just reading the headline. But a headline comes out, rates are dropping again, rates are dropping again. You have percentages of buyers that are just sitting on the sideline coming in. And a big indicator is we look at real estate stats, right? But don't look just inside your vertical. Go outside. The lending side gives you a massive insight as to buyer activity, right? And loan applications have increased 15% in the first 2 months of the year compared to last year. So we're seeing more interest, more people pulling the trigger, seeing what they can afford. Don't be the secret agent who doesn't reach out to people and start the conversation because somebody else is.
Yeah. Yeah. And, this going back to this whole leaders or readers thing, you really need to be paying attention to like what the Mortgage Bankers Association is putting out, not just what you're hearing in the realtor community, but find out what's happening with insurance, find out what's happening with mortgage rates, and read the stuff that they're putting out because there's a ton of information there that's going to make you a way better realtor.
If you don't know where to look, leverage your affiliates here at RWorld.
There you go.
I have a lot of lenders that are putting out informational updates. I love when I get by text message at least once a week, an update. Different types of loans, different types of rates. It gives me talking points to go back to consumers, and that's what they're looking for.
So talking about all the headlines and this fear mongering that happens in the media, what do you think the psychological impact is on the consumers right now because of the stuff that we've been reading lately and that's making it to the consumer? I don't think that we've got a lot of consumers that are plugged into Inman and Riz Media, but they're hearing stuff about the real estate market from anywhere that they're getting their information from. I mean, if they're watching, any of the financial markets and those types of channels and programs and whatever, they're putting out their own media and their own spin on it as well, the same way that Riz and Inman are.
100%. There's trusted sources, right? People will look at a Wall Street Journal, a USA Today Finance, that type of publication, and they will trust the headline and not read it because you have to pay to read it.
Yeah.
So they'll read that headline, and that drives their sentiment and how they look at everything. But it's on the realtors to change that narrative or give them more of a knowledge piece for their specific situation, not as it applies to the U.S. population as a whole and markets as a whole. Every piece in real estate is hyperlocal. Every part of the market is hyperlocal.
Totally agree.
What you read on USA Today and Wall Street Journal might cover the average marketplace. We are anything but average here, right? So very, very unique.
And I would say just lean into your local publications more so, because they're going to have more of a hyper-local focus versus your Wall Street Journals, CNBC, our news articles like that are your national perspective versus a very hyper-local perspective. I tend to see those articles on a local publication be a little bit more accurate versus the larger publications. And so that'll be a little bit easier to talk to them and the consumer and have a conversation.
As much negativity as we're putting towards the headlines that are fear-mongering, it's looking back and just kind of thinking about my own inbox, right? Your own email inbox. Who do you engage with? You click on a subject of an email when it triggers something in your mind or your emotions, right? And realtors should be thinking about that themselves when you're reaching out to your database. How are you reaching out? Are you saying market update, delete, spam, not getting read? Maybe leverage that same psychology, that same mentality to call attention to your communication. Homes are cheaper to buy now than they were 5 years ago. Now that I've got your attention, here's some real information. Something along that. You're trying to hook them in, just like the media is, but with real information, not kind of floating things up.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think that we've got to take the narrative back. I mean, we are the professionals, and we are the ones that have all the access to all the data and know exactly what's happening in the market. And if your consumers are getting that information, your customers are getting that information from another source, what good are you? They feel like, we're in an age now where everybody's getting all their information from artificial intelligence and Google searches and whatnot. I had a buyer call last week and led off with the conversation of, I got your information because I went and ChatGPT told me that I should be calling you, and this is, where I am in the pre-approval process, and this is all the information that I have, and this is exactly what I want to buy, and they were spitting all this information out to me. Well, guess what? ChatGPT does not always get it right. And I had to correct them several times on things that were happening in the market and what they thought. This is the same buyer that was talking about foreclosures. And it's like, that is not what's happening here right now. So let's reframe this discussion. Let me give you the real data and show you exactly, what's happening in this local market. But like you said, we need to start being the ones, if you're not doing it already, that's giving all of that information to the consumer. So that way they don't have to go and look for it somewhere else. Or you could at least correct what it is that they're reading. If you find a headline, that's a great idea to put an email together that's going to have your own, your own clickbait sort of tag in the subject in order to get them to open it up and give them the real information. Because otherwise they're running with whatever they heard on the street, which is not going to be. People are going to see something on TikTok and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I heard from Sally because Sally saw this on TikTok and this is what's happening in the market. And, we shouldn't buy now because this is a terrible time because Sally said that TikTok said, no, we should be getting information from TikTok.
Pure Sally dancing while she gave that information.
So what about housing crash? When's that coming?
I don't think it is. I think the crash is in the rearview mirror, and we've submitted our claim to the insurance company, and we're back on the road. I mean, supply and demand dictates everything.
We are farmers.
Bum, bum, bum. We can get a whole jingle here going.
We could.
So supply's increased. We know that. Inventory's up. You've read the headlines. You've read the articles. Leaders are readers. God, I love that. So inventory was up. Buyers were down, right? Demand was down. Supply was up. So that is going to take prices down. And we did see a market correction taking values down.
Yeah, just slightly.
Yeah. Ever so slightly. That's why we're unique compared to other areas. But now you look and inventories, listings being added to the market have slowed a little bit. right? It's not ceased. It's not stopped whatsoever, but it's slower than it was last year. And buyers are reentering because it's becoming more affordable to buy a home. So now you've got this balance that's coming into play of supply coming down, demand going up. And as soon as we hit that point where the demand is stronger than the supply can absorb, or you're down towards that 3-4 months of market supply,
That scale's going to tip again.
and we're going to be in a full-fledged buyer's market. And what's that going to do to prices? It's not going to tank them. Too much competition is going to drive them right back up.
Yep.
So it's a great time right now to buy. It's always a great time to buy.
I'm still hearing about multiple offers happening if the house is priced properly. I mean,
Correct.
there are buyers that are waiting for someone's house and they haven't seen what's on, they've seen everything that's on the market right now. There's houses that are hitting the market that are priced properly based on comps and the data that we have, and the realtor making a good, pitch to the seller to make sure that they understand where they need to be in order for their house to sell. And they're getting multiple offers within a day or two.
It's 6 offers in 48 hours on the listing.
6 offers in 48 hours. There you go. Yeah, it's the people that are sitting around going, "Oh, the market's going to crash." I'm sorry, honey, it's not going to crash. Not in South Florida.
I tell people all the time, if you wait for the market to crash, you're going to miss out.
Big time.
And we're going to be having the same conversation a year from now and looking at each other like, you ready now?
There is no time in the history of real estate over a longer period of time. It will fluctuate up and down month over month, quarter over quarter, but over the long term, there is no time period where it has ultimately been lower than it was before. Right? It is always going to go up, and that is just the world economy. Regardless, everything gets more expensive. Milk will never be 25 cents that it was back in the days before our lifetime. Real estate will never be what it was in 1970. Everything goes up. So if you're waiting to time the market right, it's about when it's right for you and your family. We need to perpetuate that narrative to consumers, where they say, what's that cliche? Don't wait to buy real estate and wait.
100%. And that's my mantra.
I hate those little quips, but at the same time, it's real. It's reality.
Just to wrap this up, when we're talking about media, what do you think that what the media is doing by putting out clickbait and putting out these these headlines in order to get these people reading? You already said it in the beginning. They're trying to get their followers up. They're trying to get their reads up, and get that web traffic. But do you think it's intentional manipulation, or do you think it's just the economics of media? I mean, I think we touched on that and have our answer, but
Psychology. Yeah, I mean, they're trying. You get more engagement and more attention if you strike an emotional chord. And that's what everyone tries to do, regardless of the profession that they're in. But the media is the professionals. If they can strike a chord and resonate with a reader in a headline, they're going to read the article. And that's what's going to get them to continue to read, especially when that message echoes what the consumer is assuming from the beginning. So it's all about the economy, not U.S. economy, the economy of getting attention, the commodity of someone's attention, someone's time in that publication versus another one. So it's a lot of grandstanding, but at the same time, if you read the article, you're getting the information, and then you can be that voice, the voice of real estate.
the voice of real estate.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that. They're not just putting out straight lies. They're putting out a fear sells. They're putting out a headline that's going to get somebody to say like, "Oh God, this is crazy."
Is the headline tiptoeing on a gray line? Of course.
100%.
But that's the whole point. It's getting you to really just get hyped up and read in and engage on the article. And then you read the article and you're like, oh, it's not that bad.
Read the headline, you're like, oh, my cousin Mary's buying a house right now. I should let her know about this.
Yeah.
And there you are. You're hook, line, and sinker. You're in there.
Then Mary just canceled her contract. Yeah. What do you think? Any final thoughts?
I would just say do your research. Read the full article. Anything that comes out there, again, leaders or readers, I will stick by that all day, no matter what it is. But in order to really gain a sense of knowledge about the market, you must read. You must see multiple sources, as we talked about, and gain a perspective going into the real estate market.
Fantastic.
I'm going to say that leaders are readers, but producers take action. So you can read the article, you can have full understanding, but if you don't share that message, you don't share that communication and create your own trigger to create conversations with consumers or potential consumers, you will not be in that producing category. It's very important to share that message. And I guarantee if you walk around and you pick 10 people that are perceived at the top of your marketplace, they're sharing that message. They're contacting their database. They're posting on social about it and what it actually means. And they're generating information so people feel confident to go to them.
Contact your database? People do that? God, if half the people contacted their database and made those phone calls and changed that narrative and really grabbed a hold of it and made sure that what the consumer is hearing, they're actually getting from the professional, from their trusted real estate advisor, their realtor, we'd be in such a different mind space. The consumer would be in such a different mind space. Well, thank you guys for that. We are going to continue on doing a mix of special guests, but you guys are going to see Jonathan and Jonathan back on that side of the table many more times throughout the year. We are back, season 4. Get back on every Friday morning, 8 a.m. For the general public, Thursday afternoons for our RWorld members. But we're going to keep on doing this thing and having these conversations and making sure that you guys are getting the proper information right from the professionals. With that being said, thank you guys so much for listening in, and we'll see you right back here next week on RWorld Talk.